Yeah. All right, finally.
Huh.
All right, so
Hello.
yeah, the whole thing is gonna be. I'll start. I'll just
Of course.
introduce
Of course.
myself, and so on. And whoops. And we're gonna see. I'm just gonna ask you questions about basically your life and so on, and IB and childhood, and
Okay.
lots of interesting things. And as I said, it basically all depends on the length of the podcast on your answers.
Of course.
How broadly you're gonna
I will do my best to limit
answer.
myself.
Of course. I mean, I don't have a time limit, so.
I do somewhat, but
Yeah.
yes.
All right.
But yeah, okay.
Okay, so for the last check, just to be sure, I wanna make sure it works. It sounds okay. Okay, so good day everyone. Here it is, Erudito podcast, and me, your lovely host Rapolas. And this is an amazing day, and we are also having an amazing person here. She's firstly a great coordinator of AB at Erudito, and also a geography teacher too, and she's Marta Bobiatynska.
Hello everyone. Hi Rapolas.
How are you doing?
So far so good, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Lots of work going on, but I'm great.
At least we both feel we are alive.
Yeah, so thank you for coming. And
Thank you for the invitation.
today we're gonna talk a little basically about you. The whole, as I don't know if you heard, but the whole point of this podcast is to know more teachers and let's say, teachers just as school. And I want to start from the beginning, from the very beginning, basically your childhood or your time when you were a student, right?
Okay.
How did your time at school look like as a student?
Oh wow. I don't know how back you want to go, but I remember that whenever it was a primary school or high school, the first lesson always started at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
And that I was never late for the first lesson unless there were some other factors that I couldn't change that would cause me being late. But I must say that I have much better memories from high school than from primary school for some reason. We usually finish day around 3 o'clock at the school, so we had from 7 to 8 classes. A day. How it looked like, very traditional school.
Right.
Still in primary school we wore uniforms at the time, although it was a state school. In high school, because high school was just very conservative, so we dressed up in a conservative way, and we knew that this is just the way our school is. So when we decided to take exams to get into that high school, it was our dream, all of us students, it was a dream for us to get into that high school. Then when we've entered, we simply respected the customs that were there.
Right.
Yes. But
And
yes.
Did you like school overall?
Overall, yes. I mean, I must say that I think it was the way I was brought up also, that it wasn't much about liking or not liking.
Yeah.
It was, we were raised in a way to just okay, at the age of 7 you go to primary school and it's for 8 years. And then when you get to 8th grade, work hard because there'll be entry exams for high school. And actually that first moment when I had some choice was when it came to selection of a high school.
Yeah.
And I got into my dream high school, so overall Yes, I think I did. Yes.
And you've mentioned about that you like you have best memories from your high school. What was the most memorable thing?
Oh wow. It's very hard to select that one, but
The first thing that pops
the first
in your
thing
mind.
that comes to my mind are our final exams,
Yeah.
which were still at that time marked by our teachers in high school, and very scary on one hand, but I remember that the first exam was in Polish language and literature, and I don't, like, you can imagine yourself, all of you, but at that time, that exam the duration of that exam was 5 hours.
Okay.
5 hours, right? 5 times 60 minutes. And we had to select an essay topic, 1 out of 4, and really to answer to write that essay, you really had to spend 5 hours. Because the way topics were formulated, you had to actually use books from different centuries.
Right.
Because they were usually connected to how, for example, the archetype of mother was shown throughout centuries. And what I loved about that exam in Polish language literature was the overall atmosphere, but also how we were supported by our teachers, like how they created for us the nicest possible atmosphere, because they knew we are stressed. But because exam lasted for 5 hours, so they were bringing us tea, coffee, because it was allowed then. They were bringing us sandwiches. So some of the, like, let's say that for the first time ever, some of the teachers whom we remembered as very strict and not really nice, like suddenly like it turns out like, oh, teachers are also human beings, right? So, but yes, but overall I remember that as a, of course it was serious experience, and of course we knew you don't pass Polish language literature, you are 1 year behind. But my memory was overall like, yes, that I really felt like this, because in Poland you call it maturity exam, matura, and I really felt like we were treated for the first time as adults.
Right,
So,
and you also mentioned strict teachers, but how about students? You know, what kind of one of my favorite actually question is, what kind of person were you back then? You know, like that top girl, top, you know, student who always knows the answer and is like the best friend of a teacher, or that one who is like a bad girl and like against the system and I don't know, breaking rules?
For sure, in primary school, I was like the top student and focused on like good grades, let's call it this way. A lot of this came from home. That was the expectation, especially from my father. So I didn't want to disappoint for sure, especially my father. When it was already about high school, it was a little bit different because somehow we had, firstly, after being a top student in primary school, the beginning of high school for me was very challenging.
Right.
And I remember till now, if we talk about averages, probably at the end of high school, my average was above 5 point something out of 6. And first term in high school, it was below 4. Because it was completely different approach. We were already treated as students. And of course, everyone was all the time telling us, oh, you've passed exams to this high school, so now you will see, you know, that this is the end of kindergarten. But I think our class in high school somehow, also because of, let's call it problems with certain teachers, we built like a sense of community. So although with time I was maybe one of the top students in my class, first of all, it was impossible to be top in every single subject. So with me, everyone knew geography, Marta, right? And anyway, I went to the class where math and geography were higher level. So those were main 2 subjects. So with geography, yes, they knew to come to ask for help, and of course I was often sent to talk to teachers to postpone deadline or postpone test, etc. But I wouldn't say I was perceived as someone who's isolating herself. And yes, there were moments when in the class, when we felt, for example, that students is treated unfairly, there were people who were not afraid to speak out, and I would speak out for others, others would speak out for me, and yeah, so I don't know, probably I hope there are good memories connected with me. Right. Actually, last year we've met. It was 20 years after graduation, and I organized the meeting. I was kind of in charge of this student council in the class, so a lot of people came, and I think after 20 years, what is very nice, you no longer think like, oh, I didn't like this person. We are all adults, and it's more like, oh, you're so much fatter, and oh, and you have less hair. And
do you still remember those old jokes from back then?
Many, yeah.
All right, and now I just want to go a little further, and jump to, let's say, teacher's job. Okay. You've said. You've started with, your, let's say, main subjects. You talked about geography, math, and so on. Now you are a geography teacher. Firstly, do you like being a teacher? I mean,
automatically I would say yes. Automatically I say yes, but of course my job has changed already 3 years ago. Because after being full-time teacher, it is, I think, my 7th year when I'm more and more involved. I don't like to call it administrative things. I would like to call it more pedagogical leadership as such.
Yeah.
And to some extent, to me, it is a natural pathway of professional development. So, I was always interested. Even when I said I was in charge of the student council on the class level, but also later on at the university. So I always liked organizing things, and I was always getting irritated when things were disorganized and when I had idea how they could be organized.
Yeah.
So firstly, I've decided to become a teacher. Not because I didn't have any other idea for life. No, I've decided to become a teacher, and precisely geography teacher, because I had fantastic geography teacher in primary school.
Right.
So that was already at the primary school level that I've made that decision. Hence later the choice of high school and faculty of geography later on. And so from that perspective, yes, I had fantastic primary school teacher. She picked me up from the crowd. She was the one who said you should try Olympiad in geography, etc. So that's inspiring, because I think every student needs someone like this.
Yeah.
That this is the beginning of any pathway we choose later on. Right. There's that one teacher. Sometimes we even realize after very many years who is that person. So yes, and then fantastic teacher from high school, and she is like a grandma to me. She's in late 80s, but we are still in touch. Right. And cool. Yes, and with the primary school teacher as well, we are still in touch. So that was choice, because I thought that it's a cool job to be a teacher.
Yeah.
And I also thought that teachers do not have as much homework as students, so it's going to be fun. But if you want to be a good teacher, if you want to be a good teacher, you have a lot of homework.
Yeah.
And
I just wanted to ask, what did you learn from being a teacher?
First of all, that you never stop learning.
Yeah.
You never stop planning, and this is not a job like as many think about our profession, that let's say in Poland it's a full-time job, it's 18 hours of lecturing and you're done. No, you go home. If you want to be a good teacher, you need to prepare, you need to be creative, especially nowadays when students actually can find information themselves on the internet.
Yeah.
So you need to think what actually should be the content of the lesson.
Right.
And also how to deal with sometimes very in-depth questions.
Yeah.
And I must say I was very lucky that I was offered to teach with an IB program right after university, because that program allowed me to further develop and my skills, my language skills. And I always say, when I hear colleagues also saying that, IB takes a lot of time. Yes, it does. For the first 2 years when I was an IB teacher,
Yeah.
and we didn't have textbooks in English, I was at home sitting with Polish textbook, Polish-English dictionary. No one taught me geography in English, so I was in front of the mirror exercising phonetics. And I knew that my students are much better in English language than me, but for me it was important that I teach in English. So we had this agreement with my students throughout first few years that they were telling me when I was mispronouncing something. Yeah. But yes, 6 lessons a week, for every single lesson I had to prepare. Yes, it was massive amount of work, but either you want to do it or you don't. If you don't, then maybe this is not a profession for you. So I'm not sure if I'm still answering the initial question.
No, it's right.
But yes, and I had that. There was that moment also when I thought I'm gonna stay at the university and be a researcher, and that job at school will be just part-time. But my first project for my PhD thesis was rejected.
Yeah.
So then I became a full-time teacher. And it took me a few years to come up with a new topic that will be somewhat connected to what I do at work. So I ended up writing those PhD thesis on geography education with an IB program.
Okay.
But the initial one was connected to sustainable land use planning. And yes, but...
So 1 second, I just want to be sure. So you were a PhD too, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah, it happened by default. I don't know. At some point.
Okay.
Yes.
Now I just want to go deeper to IB. You know,
Yeah.
People know that you're an IB coordinator right now. And firstly, what kind of characteristics an IB coordinator needs to have? Like, is it a really hard job?
It depends. I mean. Well, hard job. I would say, if I say no, director might think like, oh, let add Marta.
That's challenging.
Yes, few more, right? Few more duties. Is it hard job or not? It's a job that, I mean, for me, on one hand, it's not, because I like it. It requires a lot of action.
Yeah.
It's never boring, because IB coordinator, first of all, should have an approach. Whenever possible, look for a solution. Yeah. So IB coordinator is good, I believe, when, so we know there are rules, we know that some rules you cannot play with, but there are also sometimes situations when you really need to be creative and look for a solution. For example, from my previous school, which was a boarding school in Armenia, I had a student who was, after first year of IB, called into the Armenian army and then returned.
Yeah.
And then how to handle that, how to deal with it, right? So you need to be open to look for solutions. I think good IB coordinators are creative when it comes to creative thinking.
Yeah.
What I believe I could still further develop for sure is being consistent when it comes to demanding, for example, executing deadlines from students, right?
Yeah.
It's an art.
Right.
It takes time. IB coordinators should like IB program as such.
Of course.
I've seen IB coordinators who do not like IB program. I've seen IB teachers who did not like IB program as such, and they were open about it to students. If you don't like something, you cannot do just a good job.
Right.
And I would also add that IB coordinator must have good organizational skills, because like to mention organizing exams, but it's also a pedagogical leader. So this is a person, I think it takes time to really be good coordinator, because you learn through experience. So I don't know every single syllabus, but because from time to time I had different teachers asking different questions, it causes that I had to read certain documents, guides, etc.
Okay.
So.
And now when you have mentioned the IB coordinator's job and teacher's job, which one is more interesting?
At this stage of my professional development,
I would say so.
I would say IB coordination.
And why is it so?
No. Why so? Because I'm always looking for something more.
Okay.
I've always looked I've reached a certain stage and I already wanted something more. I've looked ahead. So although IB geography program is very interesting, although curriculum is changing every 8 years, and even when we talk about geography curriculum without watching news and being interested, it's not possible to teach us up to date. Because for example, I taught for many years geography of health. So COVID changed everything, and it's not yet described in textbooks, but you cannot pretend it doesn't exist.
Right.
But at some point, just this kind of routine. Okay, so when it's December of the second year, I'm finishing what common part for HL, SL, I'm starting HL, internal assessment, etc., etc. I like it. I did it even in Armenia as an IB coordinator, but somehow I like more now this side when I advise, look for solutions, organize things. Yeah.
Okay.
There's nothing more to add to that.
Okay. So then you've mentioned all of those things about IB, and actually I've done a few episodes in my podcast about internal assessments, TOK, and all those specifics. Anyhow, as I know you have great experience in teaching, exploring IB. Firstly, how did you find it? How did you find IB program?
Oh, you mean in terms of as a job opportunity?
I mean.
Oh no, so the story was much less complicated. The program found me a little bit.
All right.
But my first IB school in which I have worked, that was the first IB school in Poland.
Okay.
So they've introduced, and it was a famous case because it was 1993, actually two schools at the same time, one in Warsaw, one in Gdynia, introduced IB program. So we all knew that Copernicus High School in Warsaw is known for high level of English language education and that they have IB. But IB, even at the university times, when we've heard about this IB program, it sounded so abstract, when we've seen, I remember first time exam papers, no, this is just higher level and it's in English, no way, right? And then my friend who worked part-time at that Copernicus High School, but only in bilingual classes, Polish-English, he was resigning from that job, and I've asked him to recommend me because I was graduating from university, and he said, no problem, I will recommend you. I had my conversation with head of school, and he accepted me to join the school from the new school year. And we decided that will be pre-IB and bilingual classes.
Yes.
I will do my best to make this story short.
Right.
Okay, so bilingual classes, pre-IB. And then I get a phone call July, late June, July. School year starts September 1st. If I can come to school, so I come to school, and the head of school says to me this, Miss Marta, because he was Miss Marta. So as I understand from your diploma, you do know geography. I said, yes, I believe so. And you also have a 5 from English language exam. I said, yes. So you know English? I said, yes. so you can teach geography in English, right? And I said, well, I never did, but I guess yes. Okay, so you're gonna have your IB diploma program group.
Okay.
So, and that was it. That was it. We are talking about times when there was one paper textbook, when there was one paper copy of syllabus, and when internet was something new and often recognized as too complicated to look even for information, because it was easier to go to library, dear everyone, and find information in books. So I started my preparations with one textbook in Polish, and dictionary. That was
Right.
it. So again, I've learned through experience. I
Yeah.
didn't have that much knowledge prior.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yes, I was lucky. It was 2004 and Poland entered European Union, the same as Lithuania. So suddenly a lot of schools wanted to do IB.
Right.
So there was also, with time, there were many more schools joining, and our school, Copernicus High School, was a role model for all of them. But from my perspective, when I joined that school, it was like a well-working machine, and I just had to join and immediately start moving.
Right.
Like, yes.
Okay. And you also, I mean, I believe you have met so many students, through IB, and you've seen lots of struggles and successes, and you've explored a lot of basically IB for years now. Now, and as you've seen all of that, let's say, those experiences, do you have, for current, let's say, IB students, or maybe not for current, or maybe who is just will go to IB and so on, do you have any tips how to beat, or like how to endure, IB? Let's say, 3 tips of Marta?
Oh, 3, okay. It might sound trivial, but I repeat that also a lot to you, but it's really important within IB to work to the best of your abilities.
Right.
So instead of focusing, I must get 7, to focus on, okay, I know that I didn't procrastinate, for example, if test is coming.
Yeah.
I know that I really did my best to get prepared. And then if you got, 5, but you work to the best of your abilities, you know that this is the best at this point. And I think this is crucial in IB, because taking into account that grade distribution later on depends on the distribution of grades around the world. Like, with whom you are competing? You are competing with thousands of unknown people, right? So just focus on working to the best of your abilities.
Yeah.
I always say, like our ski jumping Polish champion Adam Małysz always said, before each jump, he was thinking about performing the best jump ever, and not about winning precisely that competition. But it's really important. And it's hard, it's challenging, because we all, students are coming out from educational systems where grade was in the center.
Right, of course.
Right? Grade was in the center, and it always does, still does exist. And also, we were often studying to get the best grade, because we were afraid that teachers will shout on us, that parents will be unhappy, that there will be no presents for Christmas, etc., etc. Here, thinking is different. It's if you get at the beginning 3, 4, there's time for improvement. If you get 5, there's time of improvement. If you get 7, don't stop working hard. So that would be still the first tip. The second one is, of course, I am not a master of time management, but manage your time. Plan. Use different planners. Work on planning. Because if you don't plan, if you procrastinate, then you will be in troubles.
Yeah.
And the third, never give up. That I've seen so many stories of maybe at the beginning, for example, disappointment, student failed, but after a few months, retake, dream university. And also I taught students from refugee camps, I taught students from war zones, and they taught me never give up. Maybe fourth one, appreciate what you have.
Right. Okay, and then you've mentioned about time planning and organization, and I know that what I can see that you have like tons of work all the time, basically. How do you stay organized?
I could do better.
Right.
I think still I could do better. Currently, one of the, let's call it Marta's routines, which are not the best, but somehow so far they allow me to function quite well, is that when I am at school, I try to very often just to be around. There are many ad hoc questions, so I'm more dealing like on daily issues. And then, yes, let's call it, it's my free time, but, hardly ever we work 9 to 5. That whenever it comes to things that need like longer perspective or structure, I like doing it at home. So that's the time for me to do some planning, to write some emails. And I know that if I do a good job, for example, on Sunday, then certain things, long-term plans are like somewhere there in the background, and I can focus at school with every day. Very often small things, but if your day consists of dealing with 50 small things, then time is at some point gone.
Yeah.
And yes, and there was one more thing, but ranking, right? Also, like try to choose. Yes, priorities. But yeah, I'm not master because, for example, I still have to finish my dissertation for my postgraduate studies. And I think the third deadline extension is the 31st of December.
Okay.
But, and this is a lesson to everyone, when you do something, just do it immediately and finish. I finished 70% of it in May before first deadline, and then my supervisors say, why rushing? You have time till the end of December. So that 30% is untouched since May.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, now next thing, and we're going also to the end of our podcast. Could you remind me, where have you worked before, like in which countries,
Okay, so I worked for very many years in Poland at the IB schools, so my home country. I'm originally from Warsaw. And then I moved to Netherlands, so I worked for 3 years in Rotterdam. That was my first international school. And then I made a very crazy decision because in 2014 I decided to move from Netherlands to Russia. So I worked for 1 year as the primary school principal, temporary one in Russia. Then there was another crazy decision in my life, no regrets. I spent 2 years in Kyrgyzstan, in Central Asia, in Bishkek, setting up first IB school in that country. And then it was Armenia and IB boarding school in Armenia. So now it's Lithuania. Yes. So I'm kind of consistent in terms of the part of the world.
All right.
Yes. So yeah, and last year I spent 1 year back in Poland, but I must say I felt more like a visitor than actually that I've tried to, maybe there was a certain idea, maybe it's time to return to my home country, but no, I felt like not yet.
Right, and what? How was all those countries? Without Poland, because of course it has your home country. But which country has made you the biggest impact? Let's say
Armenia, definitely Armenia.
And how did it do that?
I don't know even how to describe it, but somewhat I would say that because it's hard to say, but definitely Armenia, because history of Poland and Armenia often overlapped. So for sure, Poles have very how to say, they think and speak very warmly about Armenian people, and in Armenia I could feel also that there's a lot of respect. towards Poland. In
Right.
Poland, there is a very big, large Armenian diaspora, which is well assimilated with Poland, with the local population. So that for sure made an impact. Also in Armenia, we lived in a small community in the mountainside, and you know, we were part of that community. So I took the most possible in terms of trying to learn and always respect local culture. And somehow like the warmest memories, and still I'm in touch with colleagues, and a lot of those traditions, Armenian traditions, are close to my heart. And because they are a Christian country, I come from a Christian country, so there are also many common things for us. But yes, definitely Armenia. Yes.
Are you religious?
Not really. I'm like, I would call myself agnostic.
Okay.
I do respect traditions.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
And I feel this is also my those are traditions connected to where I'm from. Yes.
All right. And now, in general, what makes you happy?
I don't know. I mean, it's like I know it's hard to define. What makes me happy? How to define that? Like many different things, which overall at the end.
Hi. You may thought, what happened? I'm sorry, guys. Once again, technical stuff. Microphones went dead, was left just 3 minutes of our talk. We ended our talk about happiness, and we wished all of you very nice holidays and best of lives. We'll meet in next episode. Bye.